The Republicans take control of the House and they unveil a new agenda, and we can see it's all detailed for us, and it looks pretty interesting, actually. Something for everybody. This is over from docs.house.gov. This is text of bills for the week of January 9th, 2023, starting the new year hot. Now that we have a Speaker of the House, you can see a bunch of stuff in here. What do we have? Family and Small Business Taxpayer Protection Act. We're going to take a look at that one, which is now added officially as HR 23. That's going to be the bill that removes the 87,000 IRS agents. We also have a new select committee. The Republicans are forming their own select committees. Hopefully they're less illegal than the Democrats was. And this one's going to be about strategic competition between the U.S. and China, the CCP. Interesting. We also have protecting America's strategic petroleum reserve from China. Will be a fun one. Prosecutors Need to Prosecute Act, addressing the woke prosecutors. That's HR 27. That got added on 1/9. We have HCon Res 5. This expresses support for nation's law enforcement agencies, and it condemns any efforts to defund or dismantle law enforcement. This is also Born Alive, the Abortion Survivals Protection Act, which is also available on this website. What else is going on in Congress? We also have the Strategic Production Response Act. We have the Border Safety and Security Act. We have the Illegal Alien Alert Act. We have the No Taxpayer Funding for Abortion Act. We have many things that they are diving into. And of course, we're going to take a look at some of these in a short minute now that I have my links all fixed up. But we have a couple things to dive into first. Kevin McCarthy says that they are coming in hot, and one of the first things they're doing is addressing this big spending bill that brings in 87,000 new IRS agents.
I know the night is late, but when we come back, our very first bill will repeal the funding for 87,000 new IRS.
All right, right on. Get rid of them. We don't need them.
You see, we believe government should be to help you, not go after you.
That's a good concept. While you're at it, why don't you get rid of the rest of them? 87,000 is a good start. How many are there total? Keep going there, Kevin. Keep going. Because if the 87,000 out there are bad and destructive, what do you think the others are? Just kidding. I love the IRS a lot. I pay my taxes and I love the IRS. All right. He said that's okay. All right, cool. We're good. All right. So that is something that they are coming after hot. And this is the bill. This is exactly what was submitted. You can see that's over this one right here. This is the Family and Small Business Taxpayer Protection Act. Got submitted 9:56 a.m. today. And here is what it says. That's the rules. Repealing the 87,000 IRS agents coming into the 118th Congress, now governed by Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. You see, this is a bill not yet labeled or numbered. It says that the short title of this act is called the Family and Small Business Taxpayer Protection Act. Love that as a taxpayer. It says this is what Section 2 does. It rescinds certain balances that were made available to the IRS. All right. Remember that big omnibus bill and all of these other bills? They just turn bank accounts open, basically these big slush funds, essentially, that they can just dip their disgusting noses into and take money for their own purposes. This one rescinds those funds. The unobligated balances of amounts that were appropriated or otherwise made available in the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022, as of this date of enactment of this act, are rescinded by Daddy gives you the credit card, Daddy takes away. Federal government is fickle. We'll see what Congress does with this. Very short bill. That's what I like to see. 2 pages, barely. Goodbye, IRS agents. We'll hope this one gets passed. We also had another interesting bill that got submitted. Remember that in the Democrats-controlled Congress, they created the House Select Committee on January 6th. But this is also something the Republicans can do now that they're in charge. H.R. 12, establishing a select subcommittee on the weaponization of the federal government as a select investigative subcommittee of the Committee on the Judiciary. Ooh, let's see how this one works. This one's over here. This is submitted by Mr. Jim Jordan, referred to the committee. It's a 6-pager, also coming out of the 118th Congress, now governed by Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy. The resolution says this would establish a select subcommittee on the weaponization of the federal government as a subcommittee of the Judiciary Committee. Section 1. There is hereby established for the 118th Congress a select investigative subcommittee called the Weaponization of the Federal Government. Now remember that when we read through H.R. 503, which is what created the January 6th Select Committee, they had some very interesting language in there that we were able to untangle over the course of a long period of time and show that they weren't even following their own rules. Let's see how this resembles that. The composition of this weaponization committee. The select subcommittee shall, remember that word, not may, shall, it's obligatory. It shall be composed of the chair and the ranking minority member of the Judiciary Committee, together with not more than 13 other members, right? A hard number in there. Delegates or resident commissioner appointed shall be appointed in consultation with the minority leader. Now, some of this resembles what we saw on the J6 HR 503 committee. 13 members. This one says the speaker shall designate one member of the select subcommittee as its chair. Any vacancy in the select subcommittee shall be filled in the same manner as the original appointment. Each member shall be appointed to the select committee shall be treated as though a member of the Committee on the Judiciary for the purposes of the select subcommittee. And, you know, they'll fight for that one. So, in other words, I don't see a situation where the Democrats are going to say, why don't we give you our 2 worst Congress people who are not even Democrats, who are practically Republicans, and we just give them to you on your committee? Now, what is this committee going to do? So the composition, right? You know, with the J6 committee, we fought over composition all the time because it was illegally constituted. There were not 5 Republicans on there. Okay, 5 shall be appointed in consultation with the minority leader. That's exactly the same language that we saw in HR 503, which was what created the J6 Select Committee. But they didn't do that. They said, well, we kind of did consult with Kevin McCarthy, and he just kind of said he didn't want to nominate Jim Jordan. He didn't want our people couldn't be on there. And they just said, well, we'll just take Kinzinger and Cheney then, and that's good enough. So they violated their own rules. You know, we'll see what the Republicans do. I mean, if the Republicans wanted to play fair, they would just say, no, we reject all of your appointments. Thanks, though. No, thanks. Literally, right? They'd say, no, thanks. We'll take your 2 worst Congress people and we'll put them on this committee. And you guys can just pound sand and eat dirt. And if they file lawsuits, who cares? Because the courts don't care. The courts have already said this historically. We don't care. The House of Representatives can do whatever the hell they want. That's separation of powers. If they want to govern their committees with 2 Republicans, so-called, instead of the 5 that the law says that shall be by their own HR resolution, right, by their own House resolutions, nobody cares. So the Republicans, you know, if they were playing fair, if they were fighting fire with fire, they would allow this. They would just say, yeah, this is what we'll pass. We're only going to allow 2 on, though, because that's exactly what the Democrats did. All right, so what's this committee going to do and investigate? The select subcommittee is authorized to and directed to conduct a full and complete investigation and study of not later than January 2025. What? 2025? Oh, gosh. Complete of an investigation and a study by 2025. Great. Issue a final report to the House at that moment. All right. So that's like, 2024 elections already well underway. So we'll get a report after that. Neat. It's going to issue a final report to the House, including its findings regarding the following things. 1, Sub A, the expansive role of Article 2 authority vested in the executive branch to collect information and otherwise investigate citizens of the United States, including in ongoing criminal investigations. Okay. Provide a report on that. The expansive role, I guess how it is expanding. I get, illegal wiretaps, all of these sort of gobbling up of data, how the FBI is encroaching on you, censoring you, all of those things. I guess that would be included in that. The expansive role. Also, how executive branch agencies work with information from and provided to and from the private sector. Oh, we got a little bit of Twitter collusion going on. Nonprofit entities or other government agencies to facilitate action against American citizens, including the extent to which any unconstitutional or unethical activities were engaged in by the executive branch or the private sector against citizens of the United States, which of course they were doing very, very aggressively, in fact. And we've covered that through all the Twitter files, and we're covering Twitter files 12 soon. How executive branch agencies should also be included in the report. How they collect, compile, analyze, use, disseminate information about citizens, including any unconstitutional, illegal, or unethical activities committed against citizens of the United States. All right. Well, so they're asking this committee to investigate the government. And you know how that always turns out. The government is typically investigating itself and said, well, we're pretty good. We're pretty good. We give ourselves like an A-, on this one. The laws, programs, and activities of the executive branch as they relate to the collection of information on citizens, any other issues related to the violation of civil liberties of its citizens, any other matter relating to the information collected pursuant to the investigation under this paragraph by Congress. Okay. Now we also, so you can see very broad, right? Not anything really specific. Like the distinguishing this from the J6 House resolution that created their committee, theirs was a very specific, event, and anything leading to it or anything after it and everybody involved in it. This is much broader. I think that there are some pretty key things that they should key off of, how the FBI literally was interfacing with social media in particular, Hunter Biden stuff, but I guess they probably wouldn't want to put all of that in here. Let's see what else is here. Now, the authority, they say, the select subcommittee may report to the House or any other committee in the House. The procedure is as follows, how they get recognized. And the sunset. The select committee shall cease to exist 30 days after filing the final report required under subsection B. All right. So very broad, right? Investigative functions. It's going to take us all the way till 2025. So we won't get any information anytime soon. Now, I guess that's kind of a good thing is they can just, if they actually pass this and this actually turns into a committee and this actually resembles something like the January 6th Select Committee, then I guess they could investigate whatever they wanted, right? And they could just continually do the stupid little drip thing that the J6 committee was doing. And then at some point, probably right around, October 2024 would be a good time for hearings, October 2024. That way they could have all the hearings and then they could, issue their final report, maybe November, and then boom. Then they could finally wrap up their affairs and then sunset in January. Perfect. That'd be great timing. Maybe that's what they're planning for. We'll see. But that is something that I'm excited about. I'd love to see them investigate the FBI and figure out what all of these intelligence agencies were doing, because I think it was massive and extensive and nobody has gotten to the bottom of it, which probably means this won't pass, because looking at the intelligence agencies means, they'll hit you 6 ways from Sunday, as Chuck Schumer said. All right. So that is the other interesting bill that was dropped. We can see there's a lot of other stuff that is out there as well, but we just finished time over in the House. And so let's check back in and see if there's anything.
Right to access abortion.
Anything interesting going on here.
Freedom to make decisions about their own bodies with
time
medical
expired.
professionals and without the interference
Republicans,
of
yay.
politicians. In every
211,
state where abortion was on the
Democrats
ballot,
nay,
the American
205.
people called for freedom and bodily autonomy. And now, House Democrats.
The previous question is ordered. For what purpose does the gentlelady from Connecticut seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I have a motion to commit at the desk.
The clerk will report the motion.
Mr. Lauro of Connecticut moves to commit the resolution, House Resolution 5, to a select committee composed of the majority leader or the minority leader, with instructions to report the same back to the House forthwith with the following amendment. At the end of the resolution,
Mr. Speaker,
Clerk will suspend. Gentlelady from Connecticut.
I ask unanimous consent to dispense with the reading.
Without objection, the motion is considered as read. Without objection, the previous question is ordered on the motion to commit. The question is on the motion. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The noes have it. The motion is not agreed to. Gentlelady from Connecticut.
Ask for the yeas and nays.
Yeas and nays are requested. All those in favor of the vote by the yeas and nays will rise. Sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. Pursuant to the order of the House of today, this is a five-minute vote.
All right.
And the House now voting on giving the minority party a last opportunity to change the rules package. If this motion to commit is defeated, a final vote on the House rules would then take place. Later tonight, members will take up legislation to rescind $80 billion in IRS funding approved under the Inflation Reduction Act.
We just read that bill. Thank you for that summation. We needed that. She's my co-host, whoever that was. Shout out to my C-SPAN co-host. Great job. Appreciate you teeing me up on that one. Amazing. All right, so they are going to get their final tallies in on the motion to commit. As she said, that means they're going to come back and vote on the full rules package at some point, which is great. That means we've got plenty of time to take a look at it and see what they have in store for us. This is the latest rules package down here. Added. Adopting the rules of the House. Here, directly from the website, the most recent. Now, this is a large document. Let's fly through it. 55 pages. The House rules. Adopting the rules of the House of Representatives for the 118th Congress. They say, the rules of the House of Representatives, including the applicable provisions of laws, are as follows. Here are the changes to the standing rules. And just like we see, when statutes are modified every time we have elections, they're not releasing all of the rules. They're telling us what the changes were. Now, the first one, Section 2, changes to the standing rules. The first one is initiatives to reduce spending and to improve accountability. I like the sound of that one. This one says, cut as you go. Except as provided in other paragraphs, it shall not be in order, okay? It shall not be in order. It's illegal to consider a bill or a joint resolution if the provisions have the net effect of increasing mandatory spending, right? It's not in order to consider a bill if it increases mandatory spending. Sounds good to me. Now, there's certain exceptions to this for the purposes of this clause and so on. If a bill or a joint bill or an amendment is as follows, there are exceptions to those rules. We have another section. This is called requiring a vote on raising the debt limit. They're going to add a different section. They say that an amendment to a general appropriation bill shall not be in order if proposing a net increase in the level of budget authority in the bill. An amendment, if it increases it, if somebody says, actually, I will have a side of fries with that when it's coming through. Actually, I will. I'll have a side of fries. You say, no. It already came with your number 3. You don't get another one. All right. Sorry about that. Limitations on increases in direct spending. It shall not be in order. It's illegal to consider a concurrent resolution on the budget that would cause an increase in net direct spending. Beautiful. No spending. Some serious limitations on it. Now, we also have to increase the threshold for tax rate increases, right? If we're going to increase taxes, they need a vote of not less than 3/5 of the members voting, right? So 3/5 standard. In order to get over that threshold, 3/5 standard. Sounds good. We want more speed bumps on limiting people from increasing the spending in Congress. A lot more rules here. They want estimates of major legislation. So an estimate provided by the CBO for any bill that comes through. They want that included. Here's a segment on the subcommittees on investigations. Some details on this. Right, this is pretty thick stuff. You can see these are the actual rules, right? It looks like literal statutes. Now, I think there was also a summary of this. Let's see what this looks like. Maybe it's a little bit more digestible. Here is what the official summary is from the House rules. Here's what they say. Section by section, they're going to improve accountability and cut spending. We read through most of those. Increase the threshold for votes. We saw how those worked. 2-minute votes. So a different subsection is going to provide that the speaker can reduce vote times to not less than 2 minutes. They're going to modify the calendar. So they say that there is now a 72-hour notice requirement. The committee authorization and oversight plans. Unauthorized programs. When developing these plans, the committees shall do this, that, and the other. They want cost estimates from the CBO. We saw that section. Ethics reforms. They want an investigative subcommittee of the Committee on Ethics. Interesting. They want a committee on oversight and accountability designated, designating a committee on education and the workforce, subcommittee on agriculture, cybersecurity, modifies the jurisdiction of the Committee on Homeland Cybersecurity to include functions of DHS related to cybersecurity, sharing jurisdictional interest in those functions. That's interesting because a lot of that is very relevant. We talked about CISA, Christopher Krebs, all of those people who were sort of in control of a ton of money. And they were the people who were actually interfacing with, well, I mean, via the FBI with all of the big tech platforms, right? DHS was totally involved in a lot of that. We have the record votes, access to the hall of the House, strikes language providing governors and the mayor with access to the House. So, sorry, Mayor Muriel Bowser from Washington, D.C., you're not welcome in our House anymore. They're also issuing a resolution declaring the office of the Speaker vacant. Strikes language to allow any member to offer a privilege resolution. Reinstates the Holman Rule. Holman Rule allows amendments to appropriations legislation that would reduce the salary or fire specific employees. All right. There's also restoring legislative branch accountability, requirement for single subject bills, question of consideration for germaneness. The question of consideration is debatable for 20 minutes, budget matters. It's a lot of technical stuff. Remote appearances of witnesses, deposition authorities, documents, war powers resolution. This is interesting. So members, if they are sued for discrimination, they have to pay for those claims. They will reimburse the Treasury for any settlement of a complaint related to discrimination. They'll have to pay that money back. Good. Not using our money to fund their settlements. Transparency reforms. Reduction of unauthorized spending, numbering of bills. Oh, we've got committees here. This one would establish a select subcommittee on the coronavirus pandemic. Subsection A would establish the Coronavirus Pandemic Committee on Oversight and Accountability. This would investigate, make findings, and provide legislative recommendations on the origins of the pandemic, including the government's funding of gain-of-function research. Interesting. The use of taxpayer funds and relief programs to address the pandemic, the effectiveness of laws and regulations to address the coronavirus pandemic and prepare for future pandemics, the development of vaccines and treatments, the impact of closures of schools on American children. On this one, Speaker, 12 members, delegates, no more than 5 members may be appointed by the minority leader. We also have a House Democracy Partnership, Human Rights Commissions, Congressional Ethics. They're also talking about a bill to rescind certain balances made to the IRS, a bill to authorize the Secretary of Homeland Security to suspend the entry of aliens, a bill to prohibit the Secretary of Energy from sending gas to China, a bill to amend the Omnibus Crime Control Bill, a bill to require instant criminal background checks to notify ICE whenever there is a criminal illegal alien or whenever somebody's trying to buy a firearm, a bill to prohibit taxpayer-funded abortions, and a bill to prohibit healthcare practitioner from failing to exercise the proper degree of care for a child who survives an abortion. All right, so a failed abortion attempt. They also say that subsection E, a select committee for the CCP committee, and another one on the weaponization of the federal government. Both of those we've talked about. They say that subsection H also allows the Speaker to recognize a member for the reading of the Constitution on any legislative day through 2023. All right, so this is the summation. Obviously, a ton of rule changes. Some of this stuff is impactful to all of us. Some of us, it's probably just mechanical stuff that exists in Congress for, their efficiency and allows them to do what they want to do. But they are just about to finish up with the vote. You can see there is 18 seconds remaining on the countdown timer. Let's see what else is happening there. Are they going to pass this thing or not? Three, two, one.
Have all members voted?
Time's up. Clock's ticking. Let's go. On agreeing to the resolution, one Republican voted with the Democrats. Who was that person? 219 to 211. So it looks like they'll commit. Voice of the People says, never forget how they locked you down and said that they wouldn't take it because of the orange man. Never forget how just doing my job was the answer for draconian action. Good comment there from Voice of the People. Yeah, and a lot of Republicans were responsible for that too. A lot of these people. A lot of lockdown fever out there. A lot of people asking for forgiveness, exoneration for their prior tweets and their prior positions, without even really taking full responsibility. They don't really recognize what they've done. All right, so they're just taking their sweet time over there in Congress. Somebody's screaming in the background there. We're now at 219 to 212. Voice of the People with another super chat said, never forget how the National Guard was turned away for January 6th due to optics. But they bring them in for the African delegate that we didn't know was even coming. Or how Pelosi had her daughter filming and said, I've been waiting for this. She did. She said that. I've been waiting for this. Yeah. And it's either the intelligence community, the FBI, DHS, Congress, Metro PD, Capitol Hill PD, House Sergeant at Arms, Senate Sergeant at Arms, National Guard, everybody at the DOD, all of them. Incompetent. Grossly incompetent. Worse than your worst nightmares. Or they kind of wanted it to happen, I think. Just saying. Shout out to Voice of the People. Thank you for the 2 super chats today, my friend. All right, he's back at the podium. Is that the podium that Chansley almost took? Or that the other podium guy almost stole from all of us? Let's see what we've got.
On this vote, the yeas are 220, the nays are 213. The resolution is agreed to. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
All right, so more procedural stuff in the House of Representatives. So they're going back to count and do some more voting, evidently. But that, my friends, is what we see happening in Congress. So we've got the repeal of 87,000 IRS agents. We also have Jim Jordan, and I forgot to click over to this article, talking about the new Weaponization Committee and the effort of McCarthy and others to go and investigate big tech. Axios tells us House Republicans plan to launch a new investigative panel this week that will demand copies of White House emails, the White House files. Memos and other communications with big tech companies, top sources tell Axios. Kevin McCarthy plans a quick spate of red meat actions and announces to reward hardliners who backed him through the fight. The new panel, called the Weaponization Panel, the one that we just talked about, says that House conservatives requested the subcommittee. McCarthy granted it as he worked to wrangle votes. They're hearing that the subcommittee will be chaired by House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan, which is great news because Jim Jordan is a monster, the good kind, and we like him. A close McCarthy ally and a favorite of the hard right. Oh, is that what they're calling us now? The probe into he's the only person asking for answers from the FBI and the DOJ. Is that what the hard right is now? Asking for answers of the government, which is become hard. The government has. The probe into communications between tech giants and President Biden's aides will look for government pressure that could have resulted in censorship. The request for documents will also be followed by compulsory process, including subpoenas, they say. Jordan wrote letters to top tech platforms. We've covered almost every one of his letters. I mean, literally, I think we went through 1,000 pages of them that one show. The subcommittee's top target is what Republicans call the politicization of the FBI, including scrutiny of the investigations of Russian interference in the 2016 election. The subcommittee is also going to look into Anthony Fauci and his approach to COVID misinformation and disinformation, the Justice Department's interaction with local school boards on masking and other COVID policies, and DHS's failed efforts to create the Disinformation Governance Board. White House spokesman tweeted last month, House Republicans continue to make clear they're focused on pointless political stunts, okay, instead of working with the Biden congressional Democrats to take on issues that Americans care about, like tackling inflation. Yeah, maybe they should spend a couple more $1 trillion on that. And that will be useful in combating inflation. So Jim Jordan, I'm looking forward to it. The weaponization of the federal government subcommittee, very hopeful to see that go into full swing and full effect. If you want to keep up with what Congress is doing, you can go over to docs.house.gov gov/floor, and you can see exactly what's out there. It's updated on the daily, and you can follow along. There'll be many more bills that come out. You can see this one, HR 27, Prosecutors Need to Prosecute Act, probably going after some of those woke prosecutor and political policies. And there'll be a lot more. So when they're saying the Republicans are coming in hot, they're hitting it hard, it certainly looks like that. And we're pretty excited to see it. We'll continue to follow it. Thank you for joining us as we do, hitting that subscribe button, follow along wherever it is you're watching this, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. All right, my friends. Now, before we jump off of here and go check out the Twitter files, let's pause and just check out our sponsors over at 4patriots.com. Look at this. At 4patriots.com, you can go here and you can use code Robert to get 10% off anything you see here. Look at this survival food. It's hand-packed in America. If family-owned business, it's outstanding food. And you'll get it delivered to your door. It'll be stored for 25 years, and you will have survival preparation handled. You won't have to think about it. When everybody's crashing into each other at grocery stores, trying to fill their carts with canned food and stuff, you'll be safe and secure. You can go over there. They've got a 3-month survival food kit. It's everything you need right there. And you can get 10% off. Just go to 4patriots.com, use code Robert, and save and get that delivered right to your door. You'll be as happy as this young lady right here. She just knowing. She goes, that's no problem at all. Everything's safe and secure at 4patriots.com. And of course, our friends over there will take good care of you. Thank you for checking them out. Okay. And that, my friends, is where we're going to wrap it up on the day.